afternoon, folks. We appreciate your time this afternoon for some really good information about some people that do a wonderful ministry here in the Prescott area. We're going to be talking this afternoon to Yvonne and Dave Barreras, who are missionaries in our own backyard. They're missionaries to the homeless and the working poor of Yavapai County and if I get this whole name straight, it'll be good. I practiced. It is the Yavapai Territorial Gospel Rescue Mission. And they have a very specific ministry to women and their children who find themselves in need of a transitional home and help through times of trouble in their lives. And we're so grateful for you guys to be here this afternoon. I want to thank you very much for taking time out. I know you have obligations there even today, and that your time is precious, but we want to thank you for sharing your time with us today. It's really important, I think, to share this information with people so more people are aware and understand of these resources that are available to them. It's not a lot of people that will step up to a 24/7, 365 kind of mission that is probably as much home as your own home is for you with the hours that you put in. So if we could, welcome again, and let's start with your story, if we could, Dave and Yvonne. What's your background and how did you come to this ministry?
Oh boy, our background, gosh, how far do you want to go back?
Just from ministry, kind of early stages on. It's good.
Well, we met in college, which is a Bible college, but I started right off in ministry in Bullhead City, and then we've stayed in involved in church and ministry pretty much our whole marriage. We started actually with the mission, or thinking about the mission, in 2012, August of 2012, where we came up to Prescott and saw just a lot of homeless around. We had brought some men from the mission in Tucson here and had observed a lot of homeless in Prescott and didn't realize Prescott had a homeless issue. And so we're walking along, and Dave said to his coworker, "Hey, we should come up here and start a mission." And
be careful what
you say, because that really resonated with me, and went home and it just wouldn't go away. And I asked him if he was serious, and he said nope, wasn't serious at all. And so I just asked him to pray about it, because it just stayed with me. I wasn't sleeping. God just kept kind of hammering away this idea. So he went and he talked to his boss at the Gospel Rescue Mission in Tucson. And his boss told him, well, go for a week and investigate. And we did that October. So that's coming up, October of 2012, for a week, and investigated and saw that there was a great need in Yavapai County. And so we went back, reported. There were a whole lot of meetings going on. The end of October, the Tucson Rescue Mission decided to send us and wanted us here by December of 2012.
Wow. Well, again, you have to be careful what you ask for.
Right?
But God has a way of working those kind of things out. That's amazing. So you're coming up on a 10-year anniversary.
Yes, we are.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So, are there other folks involved in the mission with you?
Oh yeah, we have a lot of partners, a lot of friends to the mission. We have volunteers that cover time so that Yvonne and I can be out. We have people who cook and bring in meals every night so that our ladies can eat and not have to spend their own money to eat, because that's part of our program, is that they save their money so that they can, it sounds weird, but get out, because we are transitional. We want them moving forward. So we have a lot of partners and volunteers that help us with that. We have other ministries that we're involved with, like our bread ministry, where we've got 10 different organizations that come and take bread from technically us, but it's through Bimbo Bakeries. So we have about 5 tons of bread that goes back into the community every week.
Wow, 5 tons
Yeah.
a week?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then we have, we partner with one of the local radio stations to do gift of warmth, so that we have jackets and blankets and clothes that we can distribute throughout the winter. We have one gentleman that's with us, Frank. We just call him the bike man. He takes used bikes that people donate to us, refurbishes them, and then gives them away. And our big event will be next week at the our annual ice cream social. We're just going to be giving away bikes to people in need.
Do you do that right out of the mission?
We'll be doing that outside of the church, Solid Rock. We use their big tented area.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're at Union and Cortez. They let us have that, so that they're partnering with us that way. And we give away ice cream, and we're going to be giving away ice cream and refreshments, as well as bicycles. Frank, last time I talked to him, he says we have about 40 bikes. That, people with the gas prices have to decide whether my kids walk to school or I drive to work. So if we can provide them with bicycles so that they can ride the bikes, or maybe mom and dad need the bike to get to work.
Sure.
Whatever works, and whatever's left with those bicycles, we'll be bringing them out to the Chino Praise in the Park and giving them away out here.
Wow, that's awesome.
So we also partner with some other major industries that provide socks and underwear and stuff like that. Stuff that a lot of people don't think about. When it comes to being homeless, socks are the most important thing you can get.
You can't go to the dresser drawer and just
right.
The closet. Wow.
So we have a couple of thousand pairs of socks that we need to get rid of, and
So
t-shirts.
if you know of anybody.
So if you know of anybody who needs a pair of socks,
Exactly.
or a couple of dozen, let us know, because we can provide for that.
Because we're going to start, we always do this October too, so people remember that and they start giving us socks in October too. So
Right,
that's cool. Awesome. So your mission facility fascinates me. I love the idea that it's a repurposed church, and it has quite a bit of history. We'll take a tour of it here in just a minute, so people can see what's been done with this building and where you folks physically have the transition home. But has it always been there, or did you move there after you got started?
No, we actually received a gift from a gentleman in Tucson who wanted to help out just a little. So he wrote us a check for $250,000. And we started looking for buildings, and that building was sitting there, and we had driven up and down that road.
hadn't seen it.
Because Yvonne's cousin lives just down the street.
Wow.
We had driven up and down that road 100 times and never seen the building. And our realtor, when we told her, we were joking on the way, we were living in Chino going into town to talk to the realtor, we were joking. He's like, wouldn't it be cool if we could find an old church to repurpose?
Oh, really?
And the first building she pulled up was our current building. And so she took us immediately. We went down there. It had been converted to a dormitory for Preston College. So it had it had just rooms down both sides, and pretty much as you saw it in the tour, you'll see it. And all we did was do a little bit of moving this and taking that out and kind of stuff like that. And it's another one of those fast, quick, get in a hurry kind of things, because from the day we bought it to the day we opened was less than 50 days.
Yeah.
And when he says it's just a little bit of doing this and doing that, don't believe it, folks. They've done a lot of work in that building. But Nicole, if you could go ahead and play the tour for us, people can see what it is they've done and what a repurposed church can do. Yvonne, how are you?
Come on in.
Why don't we just turn right here?
All right.
And
So here is our, what we call our non-cooking kitchen. We're not allowed to cook here. So we have a microwave, and the community comes in and brings us meals pretty much every night.
That's awesome. So it's all donations for your...
All donation. So we have 2 refrigerators that the ladies can put their own personal food in, and then we have house food. We have a pantry to keep all their stuff and all the donations in.
That's amazing. I saw online, I thought you used, at one time, I thought I saw a meal train.
Yes.
People
Yes.
can sign up on meal train.
Exactly. That can be found on our website under How You Can Help.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Wow, this is beautiful. And the building itself, how old is the building?
1931.
1931. Wow.
Yeah.
This is
Old.
Started up. No, well, I'm thinking all of the purposes that this building has served, right? It was
Absolutely.
A
It
church.
started out as a church. It was a church for miners, and then has just progressed. Different churches have been here. The founder of Calvary Chapel actually started in this building. So right here is our common room. This is where, it has echo, this is where we do meals, where we do Bible study, where we sit and watch TV. It's just a common area where everybody can be together. All the quilts on the walls are donation. So whether it be through Project Linus or just individuals who wanted to get rid of stuff and just passed it on. It was actually, we were troubleshooting because of the noise in the hall.
Sure.
And
that
so
makes
we
it
hung
great
the
for-
quilts, and now it's something that people see the first time they walk in.
And it's very homey in the sense, I mean, quilts for me, if somebody is by hand creating something and to very, just homey.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
People come in to do an intake. They're going to go to the office and sit in our cozy little place, and that's where I get to know people. And
Control Central.
Control Central, exactly.
That's
So through here is our playroom. So come on in.
Oh, I like the padded floor.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
So all the wording and the little characters on the wall were done by a group of young people from Tucson. One of those young people was our niece. So they were very talented and very sweet to come and just put some little characters and just make it fun.
Awesome.
So.
What a great place for a kid.
And then this whole thing, the whole room was redone by a church here in Prescott, Cornerstone.
Oh, wow.
Painted and redid the lofts, put the shelving in, the door, everything. So
I love the barn door part. That's
Yes.
awesome.
yes,
Very pretty.
so a
Great
place where the
place.
kids and moms can be
Just kids
just
and moms.
kids and moms.
Yeah.
And sometimes our moms don't know how to play. So this is a great area for them
Wow.
to learn how to be mom and just have a good time.
Wow.
Notice our rooms have names,
Right.
and when we first opened, we counted out all the doors, and we were like, oh, fruit of the
His
spirit.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Oh, wow. Wow. This is like going home, right?
Yeah. So you come in, and this is what we call a single room. A mom, maybe with 1 or 2 children, would come in and stay here. We do have cribs and pack and play so that we can also put the kids on those. We used to have bunk beds, and moms weren't using the bunk beds anymore.
Awesome.
In here, this one's looking a little rough, but this is where our night staff will stay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this is where we keep a lot of our house stuff, like our towels and our blankets and our diapers, and in the closet we have all our hygiene. So when moms need something extra, we can just pull it out and give it to them. So, but we have night staff that's just spend the night, and we pay them to do that. To sleep.
Sure.
You know,
Oh, hey.
you know,
That's quite a gig.
they don't necessarily need to be awake. this isn't a shelter, it's a transitional house. So it's not like we have to be awake the whole time. But if moms have an emergency or they need something in the middle of the night, someone's here, we have a doorbell on our office and it rings in here so they can wake up and they can attend to whatever the issue is.
That's nice and bright.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
So this we would call a double room or a family room. They're all family rooms, but this would be a double room. We would, if a mom has, say, 3 or 4 children, maybe even 2, depending on the ages of the children.
Right.
We would, you can walk through there, but we have the Jack and Jill set up so that the kids can be in one room, mom and maybe another child can be in the room, so that mom has a little bit of space. You know,
Yeah.
she can be herself. She'll have a little quiet time. So the kids can be in here playing, being not necessarily quiet, but maybe.
Okay.
And then she has some, she's got a younger one that she's trying to put down to bed. The older ones can be in here. Whatever the case may be, it's always worked out.
And again, it's more like home.
Right.
At home,
Right.
your kids.
They can
would-
have a little space.
Yeah.
So it works.
Awesome.
And it also helps with the peace in the house. They're not all crammed into one room, trying to be quiet or,
Right. Just on top of each other, 24/7. For
right.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Very nice, cozy.
So maybe we can't do the numbers here, but we can do the more individualized care here.
Right. Well, I kind of picture it as, this is perfect when somebody first goes into a transitional home or a shelter. It's more private, and it's not the big open community where they're in kind of a dormitory situation,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Because I would think if you're in a traumatic situation, you need some privacy,
Right.
you need some close-in care.
Right, and that's why we've gone only to women with children. A lot of times we'll get the single ladies in the past, and then they would try to co-parent the kids, or they'd be, kind of cranky with the kids, or tell mom what to do. And so that's why we've gone to just moms and kids, because we need to have that peace and that cohesiveness in the house.
It's some common understanding of what that's like.
Right.
Right.
We went to a realtor here in Prescott, and before we met with her, Dave and I had mentioned to each other, wouldn't it be great to be able to find an old church to repurpose for God's work?
Yeah.
And we showed up at her office, and the very first one that popped up on her screen was this building.
Ah.
And so we were like, we want to see that one. And so that's what we did. We came and we found it, and we opened up the back door, and all we saw was a hallway and doors. And we said, this is perfect.
Awesome.
And so we went through the process, and the owner was asking $400,000 for it. And we had been given a large gift a couple of months before, which was like $250,000.
Oh my.
And the
What's their
realtor,
budget?
the realtor talked to the owner, and the owner said, you know what, I just need to get out of this before September 1st. And he says, I'll give it to them for what I owe on the mortgage. And that was $260,000. So
A total God thing.
Total God thing.
Completely,
Yeah.
start to finish.
Yeah.
And with the history of this building, having launched churches across the country, or at least the western part of the country, I'm trying to think, are there Calvaries in the East Coast?
I don't know. Probably.
I think there are, but still,
Yes.
that's awesome.
So everything was done by September 2013, and we were open November 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was because the churches and the groups that came and worked together to make it happen. We wanted to be open before it got real cold, and so that's what God did. This community knows that we're here.
Absolutely.
And we don't get out that often because we're here most of the time.
Right, this is a 24/7, 365 job,
Exactly,
isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah, it's
So-
not something that you're gonna 9 to 5 or whatever,
No.
Monday through Friday.
But ministry is not
Right,
9 to 5.
exactly, exactly. That's awesome. That was just heartwarming to see that tour, and what you guys have done there is just amazing. And I'm sure that there are so many people that have been blessed as a result of it, including all the people that pitched in and helped get the building ready. That's amazing. Total God thing. Total God thing. So let's talk for a few minutes about the ministry that you guys do. I mean, other than housing, sheltering, protecting these women and their children, what kind of things are involved in the ministry to them on a more personal level? Are there planned activities? Is there a program that they have to go through to progress to the point where they're ready to be out on their own again or restore their lives again?
Each person that comes in has an individual plan. We sit down and work on an individual plan. We do offer, like, sometimes we'll get ladies coming in who are in recovery, and we'll offer to them a program called Genesis Process, which is a long-term relapse prevention program. And it's pretty detailed and pretty, what's the word I want to...
Intrusive.
Yeah, intrusive is a really good word, because it goes back to the first hurts. Why do you use? What was that first thing that really caused the pain that you're trying not to feel? So we do offer that. Not everybody is interested in doing that, but it's something that we do, and it is effective in keeping them in sobriety. But we don't have too many planned activities, answering that question, because we want them to, in a sense, get out into the community and find their way. If we were to provide everything for them, they would become so reliant on us for entertainment, for everything, that wouldn't necessarily be helpful. We want them to be able to kind of think on their feet and be able to plan things for them and their kids without us being part of it, I guess.
You bring up a really good point. You don't want them to become dependent on you and just replace one bad situation with a dependency somewhere else. They have to get back to real life and figure
Right.
out how to navigate that in a healthier way.
Right, and that's building, finding where your support is at. So, find a church. If they're interested in, in church, then finding a good, what we call a bridge church, church that's going to come alongside them and be safe, that is going to accept them.
Well, that's an excellent point, because you don't want to put them in a situation where they're going to be shunned, in a sense, because of whatever happened in their life. Everybody has their issues, their downfalls, their problems, and we all need help once in a while.
Right.
So that, in a sense, a safe haven
Mm-hmm.
and a timeout from whatever's been going on to get redirected is awesome. It's just such a actually life transforming mission and help. It's just amazing what you do, and it takes a special person to be able to deal with that, and it just, God bless you for it, because I know if I thought about it, it probably wouldn't be nearly as successful. Do you then partner with social services in any way, with counseling services, or I don't know, whatever skills people might need in order to get back on their feet?
Well, we do a lot of advocating. where we will, once we look at mom's plan, one of the things that we will try to explain to her is it took a lot of steps and a lot of time to get you where you're at here. In other words, it took some time to get this messed up. It's going to take some time to get straightened out again. So we will advocate things like you need to get into your benefits and food stamps. But we will also say, maybe some counseling. Maybe you need to get some contact the regional behavioral health agencies so that they can get counseling for the kids and get counseling for themselves. Because the broader your safety net, the more likely you'll be able to fall into it. So we encourage things like church attendance. And in doing that, we have churches actually come into the mission and do chapel so that there's a bridge there so that they know, oh yeah, that lady does chapel. I know her. I can go to her church. Or that family comes and does chapel, so I can go to their church. And it allows them a much broader base rather than just being dependent upon the mission all the time. Now we make it very clear to them that if they leave by choice on good standings, that we will support them forever if they need it. So we try to tell them, look, if food gets low, don't hesitate to call. We've got plenty. If you need blankets or jackets or stuff like that, call us and we can do that. It's not just as soon as you walk out the door, we're done.
So you become extended family.
We really do,
And
yeah.
you really are a lifetime support system for these women and their kids.
Yeah, we get to play grandma and grandpa a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the things that we have to model for families is that not all men are bad.
Yeah.
Because a large portion of the reason these women are here is because some guy was a jerk.
Yeah.
And he went out for ice cream and never came back, or he got arrested, or was doing drugs, or found a newer model female and took off with her, and now mom is stuck with the kids and no rent and no money, and it doesn't take long to end up, about 2 weeks, and they're looking for help. So a lot of the moms that we help are not necessarily addicts. They're not necessarily made bad choices other than the choice of the man that they chose to be with. So we call that situationally homeless, where what made them homeless was a situation in life that we can help them work through. So their plans when they come in, that's what we try to focus on, is what got you here and what do you have to do to get back to where you were, or at least your normal. So we will advocate things, the mental health process, talking to school counselors, talking with teachers, even to the point of calling DCS and asking for what services can I get through the state services, because DCS can do it fast, quick, and in a hurry. We're trying to work through the system. Sometimes it's laborious and our ladies just don't have the patience or the time because they're trying to get themselves straightened out and then have the kids with them too. We do a lot of coaching, a lot of times on parenting, on alternative disciplines. Sometimes we'll get brand new moms in, which is always fun. An 18-year-old with a 2 or 3 month old, and she's still trying to figure out how to feed herself. So a lot of times it's give me the baby and you go take a shower. Let me hold the child and you go get something to eat. Go take a nap. We can watch the baby for a second. Yeah.
Yes.
Stuff that a single mom just can't do, especially a new single mom. So we also provide stability for some moms whose children have been taken into custody, because we can become an advocate for them because we are 24/7 online with them. We see them more than anybody else is going to be able to. We can provide that information to DCS and provide information to the moms on how to work within the system, so that we can get those kids sent back to the mom while they're living at the mission. And a lot of times that's the deciding factor, is DCS will return the children because they've come to our mission.
Wow.
And
So it's restoring the whole family.
exactly. And then it's just, okay, mom, now you got them. Let's work through how to keep them. There's alternatives to yelling. There's alternatives to corporal discipline. There's There's alternatives to a lot of things. And because we've been there and done that, we've raised 3 kids and now we have 4 grandkids. We can look back on our experience and try to pay that forward to some of these really young moms and some of even the older moms who've just never really been able to parent or never been taught how to parent because of the example that was given to them.
That's such a full-time life commitment. You guys and what you do just continue to amaze me. It's such a blessing to the kids, to the moms. And what about the men in their lives? Do you get involved at all with the men?
Most of the time, the men are not men that we want around. We do get some domestic abuse, and a lot of times the interaction between the kids and the dads are not necessarily good. The interactions between moms and those dads are usually not good. So we try to limit what men are allowed even at the facility. If we meet with that person, that significant other, that dad or boyfriend or whoever he is, and we kind of feel like he's an important part of things, then we will facilitate stuff where they can come and do visits, and if they want to, they can come and sit in through chapel. But most of the time, and this is just a generalization, guys are just not worth the trouble that they cause. And that's coming from a guy.
That's pretty rough.
But
there have been very few, but there have been some men that have actually, taken the responsibility and have done the hard work that the moms are doing too, and have, there's been reconciliation on a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, part of my job is I'm the dog that lays on the porch.
Sure.
That's what he tells them.
Somebody's got to be that guard.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to set the boundaries so that the men will respect it.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and even that the women will understand. Not every guy's a good guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But not every guy's a bad guy either.
Right. You still have to model to them that men can be decent, honest, loving human beings, and if they see even just your two working together in your relationship, how that communication might work, how you treat each other.
Yeah.
Right.
It sends a huge message, which they probably never heard.
Yeah, and it's surprising to hear the kids talk about how come you guys aren't fighting all the time.
Yeah, it's
they
sad.
find out we're married and they're like, well, why aren't you fighting?
Because we don't see each other.
Because we don't see each other.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, so again, it's that modeling towards the kids that not everybody hits, not everybody yells, not everybody's drunk, not everybody's stoned.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You can be in the same building and treat each other decently, and it's probably a new thing for them.
Exactly.
And you feel accountable to each other to treat each other decently. So.
Yeah, we do. I mean, and that's one of the goals is having a peaceful house. And if everybody's hollering and yelling at each other, it's no different than what they come from.
Right.
Yeah, it struck me too when you were doing a tour with me. You had commented on how you focus on moms with kids and not single women or women without kids. Because sometimes they would interfere or try to interfere or criticize.
Yes.
Somebody who's already going through a very, very traumatic, scary time in their life. They don't need somebody trying to look down on them because they don't.
Or tell them, hey, when I had kids.
Exactly. It worked this way when I had kids, and it's a whole different situation for each person, I'm sure.
Right.
As they go through something like this, that they need to navigate it very carefully.
Yes. And even having more than one mom in the house is, can be
because they don't all parent alike either.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of times we play referee even.
Yeah.
Between the moms and the kids. Between the kids and the kids, between the moms and the moms.
Yeah, and hopefully they're learning from each other too.
And I bet they do. And I bet in the end that they form lifelong extended
Sometimes.
family
Exactly.
relationships. out of
Sometimes,
this.
yeah.
It's amazing. And in fact, we had the opportunity to meet one of the women that had been there at the home with you, at the mission with you, and she was so touched by it that it's something we'd like to share with anybody that gets the opportunity to listen in today or to see this later on online. Shannon, she was such a blessing and so brave to come and share her story that we videoed it, and we'd like to share that. And Nicole, if you could cue that up and let us know when you're ready, we would like to share with people Shannon's story. We had a little smidgen of her as a promo to today's Facebook Live, but to hear her whole story and to understand the truly transformational, I can say that word. It's not, it's sticky. Transformational change it made in her life, and not only her life, but in the life of her kids and in the life of her husband. That was just amazing.
So, I had just had my third child, my son, and my husband and I were really struggling financially, our relationship at that point, and unfortunately my husband got involved in drug use, and it was a really hard transition when I found out I was still in the hospital with my son after he had been born, and I moved into my sister-in-law's for about a month or two, and then came back home, and unfortunately my husband was still using, and I just had to make the decision that I felt like it felt like it wasn't a safe situation for myself and my kids. And my sister-in-law had actually heard about the shelter from her church, and I called Yvonne and she got us in within a couple weeks. So we were here for, I believe, about 6 months. We were here, maybe a little bit less. So yeah, that's how we ended up here.
That must have been a very, very hard time with a newborn.
Yeah.
And thinking that you were with somebody you could completely trust.
Right.
And then to find out he's as human as the next person.
Right.
Very
And
hard.
to see him struggling as well was really hard. It wasn't just about, oh, I'm struggling. It was hard to see him go through what he was going through, while also trying to be supportive and encouraging. But at the same time, dealing with that, the resentment that I had as well, and the struggle of feeling like I was a single mom and starting over again and not really knowing what my life was going to be at that point.
How long had you been married at that point?
Well, we've been together 12 years, I believe. We had been married at that point for, I believe, 3 years. So we were pretty deep into our relationship, and having 3 kiddos together. And I'll start from the beginning, because I had this idea of a shelter as almost like a jail. When you think of a shelter, you think of the jailhouse bunk beds, you think of you're in one big facility. You almost think of like a communal room, like a giant communal room where you're bunking with somebody else. And I was really nervous about that. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I didn't know what the women were going to be like here. I didn't know what the rules were going to be. And I remember walking in the doors here, very nervous, and Yvonne took me into the playroom. I did not know this is where we were going to be living. To be honest with you, I thought this was like the playhouse where the kids went and the chow hall where we ate. And so I asked her, I said, where do we stay? And she said, here. And I was in shock, because when I opened the door to my bedroom, it was so peaceful. It was so, I was shocked that we even had our own bedroom. I remember still the first night was really hard, the transition, and just being so scared, like I said, not knowing what the next step was in our lives. And at some point I was humiliated. I felt very embarrassed of the situation. Like I said, I had so many feelings and emotions going on. And as time went by, I just felt, for the first time, I felt peace. in the situation, and I trusted God. I mean, being here,
That's awesome.
I grew closer to God than I've ever been. And I think a lot of that was the environment around me.
Sure.
And we did Bible study every night, which was really encouraging and helpful. And just seeing the community here. When I was here, it was full. It was a full house
Wow.
when I was here. We had 3 or 4 other moms. So there were kiddos everywhere. And so my kids constantly had someone to play with. And plus, you know, being here, you have your downtime too, obviously. And so you have a lot of time to reflect on your situation and on your life and spending time with God and learning to be present with my kids. That was
Awesome.
something Yvonne really encouraged me to do, because when I was first here, I was doing everything I could to distract myself because I thought that's what I needed to do. I had to solve every problem. I had to control the situation. I had to fix everything myself. And so she just kept telling me the biggest advice I can give you is trust God, let go of the control, and be present. So, I mean, it kind of forced me to do that in a way. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
You didn't have any choice
No, I
at that
didn't.
point, did you?
I didn't, no. And I stopped being scared. Like I said, I had this peace that God was going to provide and everything was going to be okay. And God really transitioned us out of, you know, here and put us in another place. And I mean, eventually my husband and I reconciled, and now he's very involved with the kids. He's been sober for 2.5 years. Best husband he could be, providing for our family as best as he can. And it's been an amazing transition and a big change in our lives. So, yeah.
Wow.
Like we talked about before, life has ups and downs. I still
Absolutely.
struggle. My husband and I still struggle with things. We still struggle financially, but we have a roof over our head. We're stable at some point. We've got food. My husband being sober has been amazing. To be honest with you, I didn't know if it was ever going to happen. And just seeing him transition into the person he is today, it's amazing. It's a miracle. And also seeing who I've transformed into. You know, we went from the shelter to another program called Agape House, which was a program that puts you in housing. They get you a little apartment and they teach you life skills to transition into the real world.
Awesome.
So I went from the shelter to another organization, and they helped me get my home, a new house, an apartment. And once I was out of the program, which was in 6 months, I was out of the program. So in total, a year that I was in a shelter and a program, we were able to transition and be totally on our own. But I came out of it with so much gratitude, and just what an amazing experience it's been. And not only that, like, I gained a second family being here. I will never forget it, and I will never take it for granted, and I always want to be a part of this community. And it's just been so special to experience something like this.
Such an amazing, amazing ministry, and that you can touch somebody's life that's so critical, but you can just, it emanates from her. You guys really helped their family. And as she said, you know, her husband's not using. It's really changed their whole dynamic, and it just really, really touches my heart what you guys have done for Shannon and for all those other moms and kids that needed somebody to reach out and give them a safe space at a really, really bad time in their life and help them turn things around and get their lives back on track again, so to speak. It is just amazing.
You know, one of the
No, thank you.
one of the things that we emphasize is it's not us. It's not us at all. This is a perfect example of God using the inexperienced to do the unbelievable, because everything from even seeing the issue to being here now 10 years, and all the stuff that's happening around us. We literally didn't plan for it, don't know how it had happened. We literally get out of bed in the morning and say, okay, God, what are we doing today? Because we don't know what's going on at the mission. We don't know what the Lord has planned or is going to unplan for us. We never intended to get into a jacket ministry. We never intended to get into a bread ministry, which, last count, we were feeding over 1,500 families in the community. We never intended that to be part of what we were doing. We never intended to do anything really other than the ministry at the mission, within the walls.
And that wasn't even what we intended.
We intended to come up here and start a men's ministry, because that's what logic says, is you start a men's ministry, then you do a men's transitional or recovery, and then into transitional, and then after 20 or 25 years you switch over to women and you do the same thing. And God basically told us, Prescott's a new place and we're going to do everything backwards. So we started with the building, and we tried to do the women's shelter, but we realized the single gals don't get along with moms, and when there's kids involved, it's more important. And I'm not saying that the ladies aren't important, but it's more important to get those kids when they're young.
Right, so you stop that cycle.
We break the chain so that it doesn't go into the next generation. A lot of single gals are running around and they choose to be where they're at. Most of the time, moms aren't the ones saying, hey, let's go ruin my life and I'll become homeless.
Exactly.
The majority of the people that we work with are not choosing to be homeless. It's not like that was a decision they made when high school.
Right.
Gee,
I want to be homeless.
And a lot of our moms have extensive histories, but when we work with them, that's exactly what it is. It's history. And they may struggle with it. They may be dealing with the consequences of that history, but they're looking for a way out, and they're looking to better themselves and their kids.
For their kids.
So that gives us an ability, as we're praying, we know what the goal is. And this ministry is, 150% prayer and 10% just show up and shut up. And that's what God does, is we show up and God says, okay, here's what we're doing today.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I hope our pastor, Pastor Wayne, gets to see this video. I really do, because this morning he preached Acts chapter 16, and he talked about God's will, and how do you know it's God's will? And for me, the word is organic. When it happens organically, not because you set out with a plan to do a specific thing, but God sometimes closes doors. It wasn't a men's ministry, right?
Exactly.
Right.
It's a women's, not only a women's, but a women and children's ministry.
And it's evolved into that,
and
because
it's evolved.
we did single women and moms, and we've tried to figure it out, and this is what he has us doing right now.
Exactly. He could use you guys as the perfect example of what it means for God's will to be active in your life and put you where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what does it mean when he shut a door? Well, somehow you didn't become a men's ministry.
Yeah.
He opened another. He gave you a building that was just perfect for the purpose that you are now fulfilling. So if anybody wants to know what it's like and how it looks in reality for God to be directing you and you to be led by the Spirit to do what God wants you to do, here it is, folks. This is exactly what that looks like. It's an everyday journey of things working out in a direction that maybe you never thought of in your life, but here it is.
Yeah.
No, exactly, because
he's blessing you, right?
And it's not for everybody. I mean,
no, it's not.
No.
It doesn't have to be.
We've had partners step away from the ministry because it was too much faith required.
Why?
Isn't that crazy?
That's an excellent.
They wanted a 5-year plan, and they wanted us to have a budget that we stuck with, and they wanted to run this ministry more like a business.
Yeah.
And
And it's
in the 10 years that we've been doing it now, we can't even figure out how to do the business side of it.
No.
And
Because
people that are business oriented get really frustrated with us
sure they do,
because
because I'm one of those.
yeah, they want to know, well, what's the budget look like? Or, I don't know.
Yeah. I just know that the food is there every night when we have supper.
Exactly. And
Right?
and in the 10 years loosely that we've been doing this, we've never missed a meal. We've never not paid our bills. There have been times when we've gone without pay, but you know what? God provided for that anyway. So, it's always a step-by-step, day-by-day process. When we have room, it's because God is saying, okay, it's time to take a break.
Yeah.
And there have been times when there's been nobody in the mission, where every single person has moved out and nobody's calling. And we look at that and we kind of get nervous. It's like, okay, Lord, what are you doing? What did we do? And then we look back and say, that's where God said rest.
Yes. You needed a little time out here.
And sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's months, sometimes it's one family in the house, but that family is so broken that they need our focus.
Sure.
And we couldn't do well with another family in there just because there was too much going on. So we don't necessarily look at the numbers as much. We have people that do our numbers. We have accountants that know, and they send us emails, hey, don't spend anything. Or we don't, and she understands. We don't contact our accountant a lot because it's not about the money. It's about, God said we're doing this, so the money's going to show up.
You're going to be there, and you're going to have what you need when you need it.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
And a lot of times it's that check that comes through the mail that we didn't know was coming. That covers the cost.
Or $250,000
Exactly.
somebody has for your building.
Right. And we have multiple examples of that. Kind of, the building was the start. The $250,000 check, but we needed $260,000 to buy the building, and so we put it out on email. We didn't know that's not what you did. We just told people, hey, we have a need.
Right.
And so much money came in, we were able to buy the building outright and pay for all the renovations. And, people started coming to the building saying things like, it's really hot in here. Why don't you guys turn on the AC? And I'm like,
no,
all our
AC.
ACs are open. So, God paid for air conditioning so that our ladies could survive the summers. Because we used to have empty houses in the summer. All of our ladies were over at the library because it was air conditioning.
Because there was air conditioning.
Sure.
So, and then the last need was
A roof.
a roof. We needed a roof. Our roof was leaking bad, and all of a sudden the money showed up, and we were able to put on a metal roof rather than just a regular roof, because the metal roof is going to last 100 times longer,
Right.
and it might have cost a little bit more,
Sure.
but it's an extension of, God's going to protect that roof now.
Yeah.
When we need vehicles, people donate vehicles. We've given away
Oh gosh.
5 vehicles this
Probably
last
this
year.
Wow.
Where people will donate them to us. We'll have them evaluated to see if they're worth keeping or not. If they're not worth keeping, we sell them to You Pick It.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of money there. But a lot of times we give cars away to moms who that's the step that they need. They're done. They just don't have that car.
Right.
So by giving them the car, they can now go.
Get a job, get the kids where they
Get
need
the
to
school,
go
yeah.
to appointments.
Wow.
It's really kind of fun.
It's really kind of fun because
What is he going to do next?
at one point we had 5 cars and we didn't know what to do with them. Within a couple of months, all those cars were in other people's hands doing what they needed to do.
We had one mom who, she got one car, she's driving that around, and then it broke down.
Yeah.
And we couldn't afford to get it fixed. And the next day, somebody donated a car. And so she got 2 cars from us.
Nice.
And yeah. So she's like, are you serious? You're going to give me another car? So, and the great thing was is she gave God the glory. We just told her, you know what? It wasn't anything we did. God gave that to you because He knows you're going to need it.
Yeah. So we don't go out beating the bushes for funding. We don't even accept funding from city, county, state, or federal. We don't accept any of that.
So you're independent.
We're independent because
Sure.
we trust God. You know, and God will use His people, His churches, His people, His resources to do His ministry. When we first started this, my boss from Tucson said, "If it's God's will, then it's God's bill." So, we take that seriously.
Sure.
When we have a need, rather than worrying and looking for mortgages and all that stuff, we pray and we watch our board crumble.
I bet. You make me think. Well, one of my favorite prayers is, I don't know how you're going to fix this, God, but you're going to have to take care of this.
Exactly.
And then you sit back and watch how He does
Right.
it. It's just
And
amazing.
yeah, sometimes you get kind of stuck. I know me myself, I get kind of stuck, and because I'm more aware of the numbers and stuff like that.
Sure.
And just recently, we got to a point where we didn't know how we were going to pay bills, and God was like, "How about you ask?" So I did, and God provided.
Yeah.
And He's just like, "Why are you even surprised?"
Yeah, and I'm more of the other side, where I can be a little frustrating to people because I don't worry about it.
That's why you guys are together and
Yeah.
it works,
Yeah,
right?
we're complete opposites.
Well, but it works, right? Because
Yeah.
you know what the needs are, and you place it in God's hands, and,
Yeah.
and it works.
And, when we first started, we both read Joseph Mueller's, George Mueller's biography, and he was a missionary in 1800s England who wanted to demonstrate to his church how faithful God was. So he started an orphanage and didn't tell anybody.
Oh my!
He didn't have any children. He literally prayed about it, bought a building, and brought 20 kids in. And by the time he died, he had handled millions of equal dollars today, and had started a university out of that orphanage and a textile mill, and was helping moms,
Wow.
do clothing, and taught the kids. Every kid in there had to learn how to knit because they were knitting socks and selling socks. And it turned into a university where parents who didn't know how to read could go to school with their kids. And his thing was, this is what God does.
You're so right. And, and we're bumping right up at 2:30 now. So I know our time is run out on us, but what a great word and message to end on is how you place it in God's hands, and He's worked it out. And it's an amazing thing that has been accomplished here. So thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing how you manage to navigate this mission, and all the blessings that it's brought to so many people. Thank you again so much. We really, truly appreciate your time today.